Folks, welcome back. We are going to be looking at a fairly new kit. It's a 2023 kit. It's put out by Tamiya. It's a disappointing kit. And I grabbed it because I got a really good deal on it. And it's a subject of interest these days. This came out from Tamiya along with a Leopard 2, I believe a 6. The M1A1 Abrams tank, Ukraine, because, you know, that's the hot thing going on right now in the world. However, I bought this kit because, like I said, it was a really good price. Before I looked into the kit, and Ryfield Models has also recently put out an M1A1 Abrams Ukraine/Poland kit, which is, if you're looking for building a Ukrainian Abrams out of the box, is a much better kit. Not entirely accurate either, but this one's not accurate at all, and we'll talk about it. This is really disappointing from Tamiya, because after I bought it, of course, because like I said, I got such a good price. Then I went on ScaleMates and I started looking, and I realized this is a complete disappointment as a kit from Tamiya. That's a really good name, and it left me wondering, did they just intentionally try to rip people off here? Or was this just a quick cash grab? Or was it just flat out lazy model packaging, capitalizing on what's going on in the Ukraine? I'm going to let you guys be the judge of what that actually, what the scenario going on is. And I haven't even seen the Leopard kit, the Leopard 2 kit that they have marketed as Ukraine. But as we open the box, you're going to see exactly what I mean. So looking at the box art here, they have spray can paint callouts for the NATO standard NATO M1A1 paint scheme. And when I say standard NATO, they're NATO colors, but it is the NATO 3-color camouflage that Abrams still do use in the European theater, even though so many American Abrams are still in a overall desert sand color from the last 20-something years they spent operating, mostly in Iraq, but also some in Afghanistan. And that's basically it on the box. Now, if this looks familiar, it should. And I'll show you why as we get into this box. And yes, some people are probably going to comment, well, you know, buyer beware. You need to research your subjects. Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. But what Tamiya has done in this kit is just, I think, terrible as well. Now, as we open this up, this should all look very familiar. Now, maybe for people newer in the hobby or younger modelers, this does not look as familiar as it does for some of us older folks. And I am going to open the bags as we go, as we unbox this. Okay. Does this kit start to look very familiar to you? Okay. We're going to look at the tracks later. We've got this bag with this wire mesh, the poly caps, and then some very basic cutouts for the main sight, for the driver's periscopes, and the loader's hatch periscope. Okay. We've got the hull bottom, the boat, with its minimal detail, but you know what I do like, what I've always liked about this kit, is that the arms, the swing arms for the road wheels, are mounted right in there. You never have to worry about getting them all even on a flat plane. That's done for you, even though it means they are minimally detailed. But I guess we'll go with this one next. Are you older tank modelers seeing this, getting it? And I don't think, is there a date on here somewhere? This should, like I said, it should all look familiar. The reason it should all look so familiar is because all they have done here is they have repackaged, literally just repackaged, reboxed their original 1992 M1A1 kit. in the same tan plastic it always came in. Original parts. Nothing new. Nothing new at all. You get the final sprue. Popped out the same old molds. Every single piece. And they have added some new decals and called it a 2023 release for a Ukrainian M1A1 Abrams. Now, I guess, in theory, technically, is it an M1A1? Yes. Does it come with decals for Ukraine? Sure. But this is not the M1A1 that Ukraine is receiving, that they have been trained to use, that will be on the battlefield at all. This is... And this was not always 100% accurate to the actual M1A1 that they put out right after Desert Storm to represent a tank that was in Desert Storm. Here's the decals we have. You can see that these little white crust decals are meant to look like, you know, they've been hand painted on. Those are just visual identifiers that Ukraine is putting on their tanks. Now, they're important because when Ukraine and Russia have some similar tanks, you know, they're both are rocking T-72s, and with Russia, with Ukraine capturing some of the actual specific models and T-80s and stuff that Russia had brought to the party, you know, these visual identifiers are very important. But they're just assuming how the Abrams is going to be marked. But this is it. It's not even a modernized Abrams kit. We're going to talk about what tank the Ukrainian army is getting and why this is not it. But this is the only thing that's different in the whole kit. And maybe we'll see if they changed. No, it is even, oh my god, it is the original 1992 instructions. This is the box art for the original. I mean, this is the original M1A1 kit. And so they reprinted, here you have the original paint instructions for the US tank crew, in both chocolate chip, that's what we call this desert uniform from Desert Storm, which we ended up getting from Saudi Arabia because we didn't have enough 3-color desert camouflage, the ones that everybody became familiar with us wearing in Iraq and Afghanistan initially in the global war on terror. That's why in Desert Storm our guys were wearing the Saudi Arabian chocolate chip. They gave us the uniforms to wear. So this is literally the same instructions that you would use if you got this old kit in the last, 30 years or so. They have the old APU that would not even be used on a modern Abrams, you know, because again, this is a 1992 kit. This is just... And I'm not, you know, at the time, this was, you know, when this came out, it was a great Abrams kit. And it was either this or basically a Dragon kit, a DML Dragon kit that was okay in accuracy, but it was just terrible to put together. I hated it. And I built, you know, I built a bunch of these kits way back when. I mean, some people might feel like, okay, well, it is what they said. It's an M1A1, but it's not remotely correct. And I feel like they either intentionally, this is me, and you guys can chime in, either intentionally just were going for the quick cash grab, ripping people off, saying, put Ukraine on something and make money, or they just genuinely were lazy and said, don't do the research, you know, just throw this in there. Because they make advanced Abrams kits. They're putting out, you know, modernized M1A2s. I understand they've never built an M1A1 SA specifically. There are some things we'll talk about it, but they give you a NATO paint scheme here with, you know, just as an insert, as like an added afterthought with the decal instructions. Here you get the actual bottle. This is, I respect this. So you get the acrylic paint numbers, the spray buttons, or the lacquer numbers for the NATO paint series. I remember the first Tamiya NATO colors I ever did was when I built I think it was a Leopard A2, Leopard 2 A5 Tamiya, and I wanted to, up to that point I had not used the NATO colors because I think they gave painting instructions. Yeah, they gave painting instructions here, but it was not NATO colors. They hadn't put out NATO colors yet. They put out the NATO colors in conjunction with that Leopard 2 A5 kit. So here it was just XF58, which is like olive green, red brown XF64 instead of NATO brown, and then XF1 is flat black. And if you look, flat black is NATO black is a chalkier. They're different colors. They're very different colors. If you paint something in these colors versus the actual NATO colors, I love. It was like groundbreaking when they put out the actual NATO colors for Tamiya. I don't know if they're the first ones that put out those specific colors, but I remember painting them on that Leopard 2, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing, because I had already been enlisted in the U.S. Army for a while then, and I was like, wow, it really looks like a vehicle. That's cool. So anyway, you get this, and it still builds a very basic, not quite fully accurate, not quite detailed Abrams, and not at all what Ukraine is getting. Some of the problems with this kit, and then I promise we'll talk about what Ukraine is getting, is this kit has very, very soft detail features again. It does have old style ammunition panel blowout doors, which have been modified up since then. Has no anti-slip texture at all. If you've crawled around on an Abrams in any modern times, there's anti-slip texture everywhere on here, because guys fall off of these tanks. People fall off of tanks. They do, because you're never just crawling up and standing on it. You're crawling up, you're doing maintenance, you're loading things into the bustle rack, you're taking things out, you're loading ammunition in through hatches, you're doing stuff. And yes, people fall off of tanks. So they have added non-slip texture all over the place on top of the turret and on top of the hull. And that's a prominent feature if you want to make it accurate. So that needs to be added. Oh, about the tracks. Everything since mid-generation M1A1s and a lot of the M1A1s that went to Desert Storm didn't use this lighter style track, the chevron track. They use the Bigfoot print track, and there's even further developments of that. So these tracks are wrong completely. These were used on the original M1, the M1A1, which was the test bed, testing a heavier turret to, when they were planning on beefing up the armor for the A1. And then we had different models like the M1HA, heavy armor, the M1HC, and, leading all to that extra heavy, extra depleted uranium armor that went on to different models of the A1 and the A2. This is an old track. This wouldn't, so this again went out with their 1992 Abrams, because early A1s did have this track, but not many of the actual A1s that went into any combat use this. So this isn't right. So there's stuff that's wrong here. So anyway, the SA, the M1A1 SA, is a version of the Abrams that really was kind of, as the A2 was put into service, some of the kind of more modernized but still older A1 versions were rotated back to second line units like the National Guard. Now, A2 is a very expensive tank. It involves a lot of electronic upgrades, and they had started to put some of these electronic upgrades into the A1. When you think about electronics, there's a lot of moving parts in any modern tank, and a lot of electronic parts. There's navigation things like GPS. In Desert Storm, GPS was not built into the tank. Desert Storm was what we call a plugger. I forgot what plugger stands for. It's an acronym, and in Desert, in the modern GPS receiver is the small handheld. In Desert Storm, there were these huge things, and maybe the platoon commander had one, or even less than that, the company commander had one in their tank, and they would actually have to open a hatch and get a GPS fix, and then coordinate on the radio net, on the company net, the platoon net, whatever, to have everybody in formation to follow them. Internal GPS receivers didn't come till later, but so there's GPS, there's advanced fire control systems that are very technical and very complicated, for stabilization, for first shot hit probability, taking the air data sensor, not just there's a crosswind sensor, there's a humidity sensor, there's a temperature sensor, and all of that goes into computing in conjunction with the laser rangefinder, how far away the target is, to actually move that turret in just fractions, or sometimes whole degrees, but to when the gunner sees a target, it moves the turret and moves the gun so that, based on ballistic arc and wind speed and all that stuff, to make sure that that round ends up where that target is. And it is never, unless it's very close, an actual straight direct line from the muzzle of that gun to the target. It does it all automatically in a fraction of a second. And basically the gunner hits the button, and that right before the round comes out, the turret does its slight move, the gun does its slight elevation, depression, and it sends the round on its way. In more modern days, more advanced stuff, we have things like Blue Force Tracker, which is not the technical name, but it's what we all call it, which is a step beyond GPS. Blue Force Tracker, it works with GPS, and it was one of the first modern force data link applications, where it actually now plots the location of every unit within a larger unit. When I say unit, each individual. So now everybody sees the location of not only their vehicle, their tank, but everybody within that platoon, within that company. And you can filter it. So you can have just the platoon level, you can see who's in the company, you can have a battalion commander seeing every vehicle in his battalion. And it goes all the way up. That can feed into a larger data link network. And they're different types. There was something once called Tattle A, which was very large and combined ground and air. There was something called Tattle B, which was just a ground-to-ground network. Now we all use Tattle J, or Link 16, which is fully digital, and every single point, air and ground, and everything comes to one integrated picture, but it keeps track of where you all are. And then if this tank, this tank right here, sees a target, they input that. Now, this isn't Blue Force Tracker, but this is how the link works. They can input it, and it can then be displayed for everyone to see, everyone on that Link 16 network. Airplanes up above, the commanders at the headquarters, every other tank, every other Bradley, every scout on the ground, anybody that's tied into that Link 16. So it's a very expensive digital architecture. There are alternate communication devices. There are jammers and both passive and active defense systems that we're not going to get into now. The A2 is a really expensive and digitized or digital tank. So the Army, the U.S. Army, just could not afford to outfit every single Abrams with all that. So what happened is they took the M1A1s out of service. Some A2s were new built, but at the Lima, Ohio, however you pronounce it, basically General Dynamics land systems out there, they have a bunch of them. They have a whole bunch of like half built or stripped down or whatever Abrams there that get taken out, and then they just rebuild them to specifications. They build them back up. So a lot of these M1s had some of these systems, not all of them, or upgrades up to a certain level. The Marines have a version of the M1A1 they call the FEP. The Army has one that they call the M1A1 SA, Situational Awareness. Well, the Marines did till they gave up their tank. I don't know why, but they gave their tank forces to be lighter and more agile. Army, National Guard forces, and quote-unquote second-line units, rather than being fully equipped with the latest generation M1A2, have this M1A1 SA. And there's a lot of them. And there's even some that are just in storage. So it was decided that the Ukrainians would be given 31 battalions worth of the M1A1 SA, because it's right there in the middle of old and new, It has some things like the Blue Force tracker, which can be used on its own without hooking into a larger data link network. There were some things that were stripped out of it. They do not get the most latest classified enhanced armor package because, frankly, we don't know they're not going to get disabled on the field, and we don't want the Russians towing them home with tractors like the Ukrainians do. They don't get some of the most latest communications devices and passive active defense systems. They do get an enhanced commander's machine gun with a little forward-looking infrared device and stuff. But it's the SA is a specific model of the Abrams that represents actually a number of enhancements. A lot of people talk about the M1A1 AIM or AIM. AIM is not a model of the Abrams. AIM is the program, the systematic improvement program that leads to different variants, like the SA, like the FEP, and things like that. There is not an M1A1 AIM tank, AIM tank. They're all technically within the AIM program. It's kind of a misnomer to say, oh, that's an M1A1 AIM. And there have been some model companies that put out a tank called AIM. So if we're going to build this to represent an actual Ukrainian M1 Abrams, you need to do work to this. This doesn't come anywhere near what you need to do. And we can do that. We can turn a model like this into an actual Ukrainian M1 Abrams, but not at all as it comes out of the box. As it comes out of the box, it is just a 1992 issue Tamiya M1 Abrams, M1A1, with a set of decals and an added paint guide. I mean, that is it. Very disappointing move on Tamiya's part, as far as I'm concerned, because I've always thought that Tamiya was a very innovative modeling company. I thought they were a very respectable modeling company, and I always thought that they were kind of a high-end, like a top-shelf producer. So with this kit and using some aftermarket products like anti-slip paste by Ammo of MiG, we can get some sprue from some other kits. Just on eBay, you can just buy individual sprue. Meng does make an Abrams. They call it the M1A1 AIM. You can get some individual sprue from that to get a couple of the unique pieces here and there that you need to add on some of the little systems. Set of tracks to replace these. You could go really big and get some sprue from the Ryefield models, the Ukrainian, Polish Abrams kit. A lot of that can be scratch built too, but you can build this with some work into being that Ukrainian Abrams. But this is still not the most detailed. Again, even the surface details don't reflect the most modern, the most recent Abrams out there. And if you look on some of the more recently engineered Abrams kits, you'll see that the detail on here is really soft. But if you were to have bought this kit already and you haven't, there are ways that you can really simply spend a little extra money, since you already have the kit, and turn it into what it's supposed to be. So if you'd like to see that, we can work on one of those. I would just advise not getting sucked into the, oh, this says it's a Ukrainian Abrams on the box, because it is. I mean, if simple markings made something, you know, that particular whatever it says, then they would never need to make additional moldings of anything else. You know, if every country used the same, you know, the Australian version of the M1A1 SA is different than the Polish version, is different than the Ukrainian version. If you line all of them up, they're all different in terms of what, because the United States has different export regulations for different countries. Australia, being a Five Eyes nation, has different export regulations than Poland, being not Five Eyes but a NATO nation. Ukraine is none of the above. So they all have different components and all look a little bit different. You can't. So it is what it is. But I haven't seen very much about this kit. I've seen a couple of videos where people just build it out of the box because they don't seem to know any better or don't care. But I just wanted to put this out there for what it is. Make your own decisions. If you're happy with it, you're happy with it. But this is not accurate to what Ukraine is being delivered or using or anything else. So I'm open to all your comments, though. And yeah, we could do up a project like this. We could actually build as close to possible from what my kind of still in the military sources tell me the Ukrainian Abrams looks like. I've seen two different pictures, both claiming to be a Ukrainian M1A1 SA, and they both are different. So I don't know. Apparently, the crews are still undergoing training. They're doing their training in British territory somewhere. So go figure. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'd love to know what you think of this and what your opinions are. For everybody out there doing your own projects out in YouTube land, keep building them, build them well. And I'll see you guys again real soon.